Good morning. Hey, welcome to Product Coffee. Hi, Karen. How are you? Welcome. If you don't want to come on camera, that's okay, but we'd love to see and say hi. We'll have folks joining over the next few minutes and just kind of chat a little bit here until the top of the hour. In the meantime, we are on session number 2 of our product metrics series, Making Metrics Matter. And here's the schedule coming up over the next few weeks right here. We did By the Numbers Product Roundtable last week, where we had a bunch of people talking about what they're doing in their organizations right now around product metrics and how they're using them. And then we're taking next week off for U.S. Thanksgiving for those of you in the United States. Then the week after that, we'll be back with Tiago Broom, who's been a longtime member of Product Coffee, one of our founding members. And he's going to be leading a session on perfecting product KPIs, almost a mini workshop on identifying the end-to-end process of identifying and categorizing your product KPIs. Then the first week of December, we've got a big discussion on aligning on metrics. And this is really the discussion around how to help make sure that the metrics that you create and the KPIs that you're promoting as a product manager are actually being used by your organization, from the team that you're influencing, from a requirements, from a product delivery perspective, all the way up to your executives who are paying attention to what you're doing and needing to understand the health of the products that you're working on. And we'll cap it all off December 16th, right before we go on break for the holidays. We've got our big Product Coffee Premium workshop on power metrics. And this is going to be a 2-hour workshop to work with experts on building out a North Star metric and the sub-metrics that you will use as KPIs to really take a leadership position in your organization in helping to define and influence how you're tracking success in a way that'll really contribute and help predict company growth in ways that really matter. So it's going to be an exciting month here with Product Coffee. We've got a few people joining on. And the way this works, if you haven't joined us before, is we're just going to do a few introductions, get to know each other a little bit. If you haven't been with us before, if your camera's on, I'll invite you to introduce yourself. Tell us who you're with, what has your attention right now. We'll come back to the metrics discussion, to the KPIs discussion in a few minutes. But we're going to just start off with some getting to know each other a little bit first of all. So I want to welcome, for starters, haven't seen you in a long time. Well, you've been here recently, actually, just after Product Camp. You got here with us recently, Andrew, but glad to have you back. Andrew Fuqua, why don't you introduce yourself, tell everybody who you're with, and what has your attention right now?
Hey everybody, I am Andrew Fuqua, the SVP of products at ConnectAll. It's a value stream management platform. And the thing that has my attention right now is I'm trying to not have anything because I'm trying to be on vacation. But nevertheless, annual performance reviews is the next thing. And I got a new product manager starting, I don't know what day, within the next few days. So those are my top 2 things.
Awesome. Cool. So ramping somebody up.
Yeah.
I have started, I don't know if you do this or not, but for those who have teams, I have just started giving away copies of the first 90 days prolifically. It's a great book, and I give them to new hires. I give them to people I know who are changing roles. It's a fantastic book, and especially for product managers, even if you're not moving into an executive role, a product manager functions like an executive, and the principles in the first 90 days around getting the lay of the land on your organization and building a plan for success and early wins are just hugely valuable. Do you have any other tricks that you really like to use, Andrew, as you're onboarding new people? Any resources that you really like to go to?
I don't know, off the cuff. I have a kind of a pattern, I guess, of things, but I don't know that it comes from any one of the books I've read or anything in particular. Sometimes if the product manager is more of a product owner, and the way that term is more commonly used, I may start out, learn the product and learn the backlog. If they're more like a true product manager, I start out with go before you look at anything of ours, go understand the competition. That's where I'm starting with this new hire.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, welcome back. Good to have you. Looking forward to having you as part of this discussion. You've been around this space a while. I know you're going to have some great insights to share as well.
I hope so.
Thanks. Let's see who's next. We got a couple people joining us for the first time. Casey Wolf or Karen Wolf and Sarah Brown joining us for the first time. Sarah, why don't you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Sarah Brown. I run product for Rev.io, which is a SaaS telecommunications billing company, about 20 million in annual revenue, so small. I'm relatively new to product in general. I've spent my career in delivery and onboarding, and had this great opportunity to join leadership at a company that I've been at before in the product space. So always learning a lot. I love it. I am so lucky that I got to do this career pivot, and it was unexpected. And I feel really lucky. And what I'm working on right now, not to be crass, is a crap ton of stuff. 2023 budgeting. I just put all of my product team through the SAFe POPM training, and we are going to be transforming our organization and specializing our roles based on what we learned from that training. And actually, I'll be dropping a little bit early today. I did want to hear about some metrics, but we have our QBR today, and we are all going to be doing a retrospective on our SAFe training, and all bringing our great ideas on how we want to transform product in 2023. That was a lot.
That is a lot. Holy cow. And you're making this pivot and you're biting off a big chunk. So congratulations. And yeah, you're going to need a lot of that coffee. So are you drinking coffee or tea this morning?
Oh, definitely strong black coffee.
Very good. Very good. Well, I'm so happy you could join us. We have
Good girl.
Yeah, we have a lot of product leaders that attend Product Coffee pretty regularly. You just met Andrew and Toby, and so you're going to be in good company here. We have a lot of people from all different career phases, and we've got this, as I said a minute ago, we've got this whole month and into December, basically for the rest of the year. We're going to be doing a lot of different perspectives and deep dives on metrics and KPIs and the numbers that you need and using them to help drive your business. So glad you could join us. Glad you're here and hope to see a lot more of you.
Thank you.
You bet. Let's see, who else do we have here? Let's welcome back Divya. Divya, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good, Jason. How are you? I'm Divya Kanju. I'm from India and have recently moved to the States. In my current role, I'm still working with my Indian employer, which is Big Basket. It's a Indian e-commerce major specializing in grocery. And there I am basically a product head for, or you can say group product manager for the last mile delivery products. So right now, the KPIs that I'm thinking about are related to, as I spoke last time, about mid-mile delivery and what kind of success metrics we would be looking at for mid-mile delivery. Yeah, so that's the top of mind KPIs for me.
Very cool. Do you have a hypothesis on what you think some of those initial KPIs might be?
Yeah, some of them are quite straightforward. For example, the volume utilization of the vehicles that we use, the trucks that we use, the number of trips, the distance trip, the timeliness of arrival, and what we're trying to also figure out is how to tie these up into the end user delivery of the orders. And it's not very clear if we should do that or should we just, keep it point based and, just keep it simple. That's because we don't want to one of the key things which we're trying to do is tie this into tracking. So so that when an order is even at, it's not at the last mile hub, but even at some of the middle nodes, the end customer is able to track their order, where their order is in the whole journey. Yeah, so yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out right now.
All right, very good. Well, welcome back, and we're going to talk a lot about lots of different approaches to metrics. And by the way, when we opened registration for today's session, we asked people to suggest questions that they'd like to hear answers to. I've gotten some private messages on questions that people would like us to address. But as we go through today, I mean, this is really intended to be a forum for you to dive deep into the questions that you have on KPIs, and we'll do our best to answer them here. We got a lot of really smart people on the phone who are going to be helping us out in the discussion. So really looking forward to answering those questions. We've got quite a few, like I said, that came in with registration that we're going to dive into here in about 19 minutes. In the meantime, let's go over here to Archit. Welcome back, sir. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, good, Jason. So,
Excellent.
hi, this
Tell
is
everybody who
Archit.
you are and what has your attention. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm working in India. I'm working for a fintech company. So that is FSS. It's the largest payment processor in Asia and Middle East. So right now, for the KPIs perspective, because in my current company, they are building the new product. So they are not focused on the KPIs for this point of time. But for the previous organization and from my previous startup, so from the sponsor pool, if I take, so we are more focused on the KPIs that the user acquisition most and how we can interact with the users and how much the users number of sessions per on our website. So these are the things. Apart from this, we really more focus on the Google Analytics part for the KPIs for the website part of view, but for the overall, so we are more focused on the user acquisition. So how
Very
much number of sponsors comes to our website for the, so as of, because we build a marketplace there, built up the marketplace. So for that we need a number of users that come from sponsors and event side. Both we can consider for the user acquisition.
Very good. Cool. Well, welcome back. Always good to have you here. Always super engaged. So happy to see you again this morning, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
And my friend Toby Johnson. Welcome back to Product Coffee. How are you, sir? Oh, you're not my friend. You're gonna disappear.
No, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. No, I hadn't. I honestly am. It's probably not the not the answer you guys wanted, but I hadn't seen y'all since Product Camp. And Jason, I missed you, and I missed Holly, and I wanted to. Well, it is slightly selfish. So we're in the middle. Hi, everybody. I'm head of product for food. We PHOOD. We're a super small, going for Series A next year, food waste startup, specifically focusing in grocery. Yeah, thank you. And Product Coffee was honestly, Product Coffee, Product Camp, all the product folks were really instrumental in me being able to get this role. And so I'm always eternally grateful for everything that I learned and trying to give back now. So yeah, we're trying to focus on food waste and reducing that. And we are in the middle of OKR setting. OKRs was something that the founders had done when they first started. And then they got really, really busy building a company. And I came in and I was like, what are our OKRs? And they sent me a Google sheet from like a year ago. And I was like, cool. Let's update this. So we are literally in the midst of doing that now. And that is why I'm here at 7:30 in the morning, drinking extremely strong black coffee with the rest of y'all. So I'm excited to chat and to learn and hopefully get a lot of perspective and feedback. And hopefully I'll get some brilliant ideas from this brilliant group here. Also, hi, Holly.
Hi.
I don't know if you've seen this one or not. Radical Focus by Christina Watkey.
I haven't.
My favorite OKR book of all, and there's lots of them. I mean,
Of all.
Measure What Matters is kind of the one that spawned it all, and it's a great book. But I think a lot of what people read in Measure What Matters causes them to over-index on some of the concepts there. There's a temptation to do it. And
Yes.
Christina's book, Radical Focus, really takes the concept of OKRs. It puts it kind of that fable, if you remember the 1 Minute Manager and all those books from the 80s and 90s that were like, it does a little bit of a business fable, tells a story about a team, but really gets into the actual focus that OKRs can create, how to put them together and track them in a way that can be really meaningful and not overwhelming to the organization so that it gets forgotten. And this is actually what I used when I implemented OKRs at IBM. And IBM had tried to roll them out several times. And this was actually the first successful rollout that we actually had on OKRs. And I followed the template in this book to do so. So highly recommend it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, you bet.
So Jason, I have one question. So it is the best book according to you?
According to me, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then my opinion, you can take that and you can weigh that however you like to. So, so let's see here. Who's next? I want to welcome for the first time joining us is Ruchu from BAT. Welcome. You don't have to jump out here and speak if you're not ready yet, but if you want to turn on your camera, we'll ask you to introduce yourself to everybody who's here. And if not, we'll get you next time. But so glad you could join us here today. And I hope I pronounced your name correctly. And let's see here. Let's jump over to Jim Montgomery. Jim, how are you, sir?
I am well and enjoying my strong black coffee this morning. Hey, everybody. Jim Montgomery. I am with an organization called Talogy. We are a talent management and talent assessment organization based here in the States, but operating globally. What has my attention, of course, is the end of year fun of budgets and planning for next year, not only budgetary, but also what sort of new ideas do we want to introduce to a somewhat less than mature product organization. So bringing some folks along into some of the things that I've learned in product camp and other areas over the past few years. So it's very exciting. The other thing, shameless plug, is we have an opening to fill. And so there is a need for a remote US-based product manager to take over a book of about 30 million in business on one of our products. And the post went live on LinkedIn overnight, although they mistakenly listed it in the UK. Don't be put off by that. It is supposed to be in the US.
Okay.
So just going to throw that out there.
Excellent. Is that on your team, Jim, or
it is indeed? Yeah, it is indeed.
All right, cool. Cool. Well,
But if somebody wanted to go to the UK, they could
Fingers
because
crossed.
it's remote, right?
Yeah, but most of the stakeholders are U.S. based, so we want to keep that U.S. hours focus. Unfortunately, so if somebody wants to be in the U.K. and work late into the evenings, we can certainly consider that. But
Party people, got it.
very, very tight knit team, even though we are all remote, and would love to have them somewhat time zone adjacent.
Awesome.
But,
awesome. I know we'll definitely look forward to looking at that posting, and I'll see if I can track it down on LinkedIn, or you can post if you want to drop it here in the chat for everybody. That'd be great. And I know a few people that are looking for some roles in that space, and might be really good fits for you as well. Just knowing you and John the way that I do, so. Great opportunity. Talogy is a great organization, and Jim here, director of product, and a good friend of mine, John Field, vice president of product at Talogy. Just world-class people, mentors and coaches. A great place to take your career to the next level. Highly recommend you check out the role. I don't even have to know the details of the role to know that working with those two men is going to be a great experience for you.
oh,
It's a fact, my friend.
thank you, sir.
Let's see here. Who else do we have here? Well, let's say hi to Holly. Holly, you've said hi to a bunch of people. Why don't we say hi to you?
Oh, that requires me finding the unmute button again, which is dangerous for everyone, right? I just stumble across it when cats jump across the PC. It's amazing. I don't know if anyone saw Rhaegar already waved hi to everybody. That's my great cat, and yes, Rhaegar Targaryen from Game of Thrones. I'm Holly Jewell. I lead product over at NCR and I focus internally on things. And one of my big focuses here at the end of the year is just thinking about budgets, right? Budgets are a big, big thing. That's right. I'm certifiable Manesh, but not certified. And I really think numbers tie well into that, right? When you start talking about budgets and what budget numbers should be for the next year, that should be based on something, right? And as product, how do you back up what you're saying, the money you need to do the things that you're saying should be the things the company focuses on in the next year? Metrics, KPIs, numbers, I think to me are the best way to make that a dispassionate conversation. So it's not just, these are my beliefs, and then your leadership is going to say, well, these are ours, and then it becomes a battle of opinions or a battle of, just who's most passionate, who's willing to throw their arm down the table and be like, but if you don't let me do it, I'm going to leave, And so, in order to avoid getting into one of those conversations, which I've had very unsuccessfully at the age of 15 with my own father, then I think that, the KPIs and metrics are probably the best way to get there. So I was really excited to do with this whole series, honestly.
Very cool. Well, thank you. And good to see you this morning. We need to get to a new product coffee mug too.
Yeah, did you notice that? Did you?
I did. You're gonna have to back it up a little bit. So we gave away some. We got some product coffee mugs for product camp, and the manufacturing was subpar. They seem to be flaking off. So we're gonna get some new product coffee mugs in the new year. So stand by for those. Yep. But they're still blue, and we have stickers. And apparently Allison can tell you that if you put stickers on them, it works. So Allison, why don't you say hi and show off your mug?
And real quick, I'll just say whoever's got an OG mug should save it, because these are going to be collectible one day, damaged or not.
Nice.
Yeah, I sent this to Jason like the week after product camp. I'm like, I just put it in the dishwasher because you unpack everything and it goes away to the places. And I brought it out. I'm like, it's just a blue mug now. This isn't exciting. So thank goodness for all the swag we got with that product camp, because I had stickers to go with that. So good morning, folks. I'm Allison Herbert, product manager for Synapse Studios in Phoenix, Arizona. I live in Virginia. Yes, that's 2 time zones. And they just went back to 2 hours instead of 3 hours. And so my math is all screwed up and I'm really confused.
Allison, and someone from Arizona, I apologize.
It's funny because they're just like, well, the rest of the world is changing for us. We don't move. Yeah. And I'm like, I got it. I'm just all the things I have to update. So it took me like a week and a half to get my night shift to play nicely on my computer. And so that's something that's recently had my attention. I am definitely looking forward towards the end of the year. I think my brain is starting to pull at the edges a little bit towards time off and time away. So I'm a little focused on that right now, but they just started blowing snow at Snowshoe. So my brain is like, can I go look at snow cams every free moment I have? So that's where I'm at this morning. I'm really happy to be here, really happy to join this conversation and see what we can learn more about metrics.
Awesome. And for those of you who don't know Allison, we have a product coffee premium community that Allison is really involved in as well. We just finished a book club with our premium members on continuous discovery habits by Teresa Torres. And a few people on this call, I don't see Brandy on here yet, but Allison and Manesh and Brandy, some of our members, are about to kick off a new book club at the beginning of December. So if you want to be a part of that, go over to productcoffee.com and join our premium community. There are a lot of benefits to that. And one of the newest ones is this great book club with really senior product people and mid-career product people working together to dig in on some deep topics and learn from each other and discuss some of the really important topics that are out there on a weekly basis, meeting up and reading together and analyzing and discussing the practical implications of these great product management reads together. And thank you for all you're doing, Allison. Thank you for what you're doing, Manesh. Brandy, when you get here, hit rewind and hear the thank you to you as well.
I saw Jim's comment on what's the new book. We're actually going to vote on it. So you get to choose or help have a choice in that. So if you were in the premium channel, you saw the survey go by. If not, there's a bird down there asking for your opinions on things. Just talk to the bird, Polly. It's within Slack. And we'll be doing another survey, hopefully later this week, maybe later today, on the book selection. So looking to kick off beginning in December with a new book.
Well, Allison, I make it a rule not to talk to people that give me the bird, but in this case, I will make an exception.
But the
I
bird,
caught Manesh off guard over the
is
weekend with the bird.
Bird,
so.
bird, bird. The bird is the word.
Yep.
All right. I think we got time for one more, and let's hear from Edie Kirkman. Edie, good morning.
Hi, everybody. I'm a little under the weather.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I may not be able to.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. So we'll get you better real soon and hear from you next week then.
Sounds good.
Or not next week. Next week we're taking the day off. We're taking Wednesday off. It's the day before Thanksgiving. A lot of people are traveling, so we decided not to do an actual product coffee. But we may have a YouTube live depending on a couple of things coming through. So keep an eye out for that, which we wouldn't have the Zoom call, but we might have a live YouTube stream that would be worth watching on Thanksgiving Eve in the US. So let's see here.
Edie, you know what makes you get over a cold real quick?
I hope.
A nice big spoon of product management.
That was a shot of whiskey.
That's where I thought he was going. I was like, a bottle of whiskey.
I thought this was like, a certain level of appropriate, but here I am in a bathrobe. So,
Is that what you're wearing?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh my God, we need product coffee bathrobes. That's a new thing. Yeah.
I think we can make that happen, actually.
I thought maybe it was a smoking jacket, Toby, but bathrobe.
Thanks for giving me the benefit of the doubt, Jim. No, it's absolutely a bathrobe. I have no class.
But by show of hands in the reactions panel there, hit your reactions. If you would be interested in a nice, comfy product coffee bathrobe. Let's see some emojis in there. I see 2, 3. Okay, we're gonna make that happen. That's a thing. That is now a thing. That is now a thing. I got something in mind actually. As soon as you said that, that's gonna be fun. So we're gonna have a bathrobe day at Product Coffee. Cool, thank you. Got time for one more intro. Let's hear from Jerry Odenwelder. Jerry, say hi.
Good morning. How are y'all
Good morning.
doing? So I liked the smoking jacket. Who said smoke? Jim, was that you that said smoking jacket? So I guess if we get bathrobes that look smoking jacket-esque like Toby.
Yeah, we'll class it up a little bit. And then we can wear them to
and
happy
I will
hours.
Stop coming to the calls and the happy hours.
We can wear them to happy hours and to product coffees.
I love that idea. I want that mental image, Jim, of a bunch of product nerds walking into a bar in smoking jackets / bathrobes. Like, let's
I'm in.
I'm in. Doing it.
No.
Like the Illuminati. Like, we will seriously,
no.
like, membership cards, like, let's go, like blood oaths, like,
and it's totally like
Toby,
tilts,
I'm
right?
calling the
Like, you
big
don't have to
sister
say what's
card.
underneath.
I'm calling the big sister card. This is not okay. You need to stop.
all right, cool. We got 2 minutes till prime time, so let's get it together.
Oh, it's great though. This is fantastic. So a lot of us know each other from the premium community and from product camps over the years. And as you go through today's session, if you really feel engaged with the conversation that you're having here and want to keep participating and participate on a deeper level, we've also got Product Coffee Premium, which is a private membership area. It is currently $25 a month, or you can buy a 1-year subscription for $249. And that is in most companies today, most modern companies today actually have a training and education budget, and you can usually expense it back to that training and education budget, because one of the benefits of the Product Coffee Premium membership is we have a monthly professional development workshop. So on December 16th, we're going to be doing a workshop on power metrics, where we'll help you define, dig into, validate, and break down your North Star metric for your product, and the descending sub-metrics that can help you really predict and communicate where your strengths and where your challenges are, and help your entire organization align around your product success. It's going to be a powerful workshop to develop your leadership using metrics. Last month, we did a session on stakeholder management. We did a workshop on stakeholder management. It blew up so big, we ended up turning it into 2 whole sessions. We have done quantifying strategic alignment with the 60-second business case workshop. We've done speaking skills workshops to really help win your stakeholders over to your perspective, help them take them from where they are to where they need to be. And premium members get access to all the past workshops via recording and the resources from those, as well as all the new workshops. Or you can just come to one of the workshops. They're about $200 each, or you can buy the membership for $250 a year. We'd love to have you join us in premium. There's a private Slack channel as well. Lots of great benefits. Go over to productcoffee.com, join Product Coffee Premium. We'd love to have you join us. These weekly sessions are free. They're for everybody, and this is a great community to be a part of. You can go over to productcoffee.com/group, and you will jump into, it'll take you over to LinkedIn, where you can join our LinkedIn group, and you can connect with other people that way as well. It's not quite as real-time and fast as the Slack group, but another great way to connect with and find your Product Coffee colleagues. So would love to have you there. Archit, yes, what can I do for you, sir?
Yeah, so recently WhatsApp released the community offer,
I'm
community
sorry?
feature.
What's that?
WhatsApp released the new feature, community feature on
Mm-hmm.
WhatsApp, so
Oh, did
that
they?
like the people from Product Coffee can communicate with the help of that as well as.
Oh,
And
nice.
every week, if there is any pop-up and as well as the information coming for the weekly sessions, then it will be so much great to attend it regularly.
Excellent, cool. So that's a really potentially nice unofficial channel to create as well, so that people can keep in touch. I'm not familiar with that feature, but I'm on WhatsApp. So if somebody wants to spin that up, we'll put a link to that as well. Just give people another way to connect.
Yeah, sure. Jason, we will connect on this for the same. Okay, I will help you
Okay,
in
sounds
that
great.
because I
Sounds
built
great.
the communities for the so many people.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Absolutely. You know, and in the product
You
camp
do want to keep
tradition, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
In the product camp tradition, Product Coffee is really a user-driven community. So, you know, if there are ways that you want to connect as part of our broader community, let us know, and we'll support lots of different ways to connect. We certainly strategically focus on a couple of channels for the organization because it's hard to manage and keep things together with a wide variety of channels, but our number one goal is to help great product people connect with other great product people. And so if there's something we can do to help you connect with your peers and colleagues around the world, we'd love to be a part of that. Yeah. So let's say we also have Leanne joining us for the first time. Thank you for joining us, Leanne. We'll look forward to meeting you in our introduction section on another call in the future. But right now, we are going to start moving into the rest of our session. And before we get into the actual content today, though, I want to take a quick moment to thank our sponsors. We got 3 great sponsors that have been supporting this program for quite some time. Method is a digital software development agency that really focuses very heavily on building digital products and services and helping transform enterprises into modern product companies, specifically product and experience-led companies in the way that they work. So not only do they do software design, development, strategy, they also help upskill the entire team that they're working with. It's a great it's a great organization to work with if you're looking for some assistance with carrying your roadmap forward, identifying the right problems to solve, and building software to solve those problems. Method is a fantastic strategic digital agency that can help you out a lot. And they've been supporting Product Coffee and Product Camp and Product ATL for a very long time. We're really proud to have them as our banner sponsor, as our diamond sponsor. We also have the Product Management University. which is a brand new online resource for learning the craft and trade of product management, led by John Mansour, who's been around the product management space for decades. And he has put together his decades of experience in training and coaching and product management into 3 product schools: one for product management, a school of product marketing, and a school of product demos. Check out productmanagementuniversity.com and thank them for sponsoring Product Coffee as well. And finally, Feature Upvote provides a platform for collecting voice of the customer feedback. You can see them at featureupvote.com, or you can go to productcoffee.com/ideas and give us your ideas for future sessions of Product Coffee, vote on ideas that are already there, and see the tool in action. You can implement this in your product very quickly and easily with a credit card in about 15 minutes. If you need a way to collect direct feedback from your customers, featureupvote.com is a great way to do it and get them engaging with each other and with your product team as well. So thank you to Feature Upvote for supporting Product Coffee as well. As I said, at the very beginning of the call, we just started last week. We started our new series on making metrics matter, and this series is going to run us through the end of the year, basically. And we're attacking the metrics challenges and questions from a few different angles. Last week we had a product roundtable that where we discussed what each other are already doing with their KPIs and metrics, how they're approaching that. And then this week, we're going to get into an Ask Me Anything. A lot of you have submitted questions in advance. If you have questions right here on the call, drop them in chat, raise your hand. We'll dig into those in just a moment. And if you're out there on the YouTube channel, a couple of things for you to know is if you drop a question in the chat, we'll try to get to that. And you can also join us on the Zoom call by going to productcoffee.com and registering for today's event. You'll get a Zoom link right away that you can jump in on the call with us and be part of the conversation. So and then we've got on November 30th, Tiago Broom, who's a longtime member here and a director of product at ADP, is going to be doing a session on perfecting your product KPIs, as well as December 7th. We'll talk about aligning top to bottom on metrics, building that alignment through your organization from leadership down to the development team to understand how metrics are influencing and impacting the way they look at the work that you're doing. And finally, we'll wrap it up on Friday, December 16th with our Power Metrics workshop, where we will go through the process together of identifying, building your North Star metric, breaking down sub-metrics, and really building a plan to roll that out, validate it, and build alignment within your organization. So it's much less about what is it and very much about let's do it together and get it done before you close out for the year. That workshop is free for Product Coffee Premium members, or you can register for the workshop on its own at productcoffee.com. Click on the workshops link, and you'll go in there and you'll see past workshops as well as this workshop, Power Metrics, that you can register for. So that's enough about that. Let's move into, and next week I mentioned the week after Thanksgiving, we're taking next week off. We'll have Tiago here for perfecting product KPIs. And this week, we are doing an Ask Me Anything. This is driven by you. We're talking about your metrics, your numbers, your KPIs, and how to get there, what you need to know about them, and how we can help you. At productcoffee.com/now, you'll see a page that has an overview of today's session as well as some links, and we'll add links to that over time as well, so you can bookmark that page if this is an interesting session to you. And we've got quite a few resources that we'll be adding to that through the course of today's session. And the fastest way to get those resources, though, is to go over to productcoffee.com/notes. And this is the Google Doc where we will collaborate. We're going to go fast today, and there's no way that I can take notes as we go. So we're going to ask everybody on the call to go to productcoffee.com/notes. Join our Google document, and you can star that document. You can save that document in your own Google Drive and go back to it it'll be open for you forever, as long as Google Drive exists, at least. And it becomes part of the record of this show. Capture your insights, capture your questions, drop your own recommendations in there. Even if you don't feel like speaking up, you can contribute in that way. It's another way to connect with your Product Coffee colleagues. All right, well, that's enough for introduction stuff. So let's switch gears and get into today's topic. And I'm going to start off, I'm going to seed the conversation, but if you have a question that you'd really like us to dig into on today's session, throw your hand up in the reactions panel and we'll get to you. If you're out there on YouTube, drop a question in the chat. We'll switch over there a couple times and check for those. But I want to start off with a question that I got in the registration. Had somebody ask, they were really thinking about how to frame out their KPIs in the first place. And so the question that came in was, what's the best framework or methodology to measure product performance? Coincidentally, I was out on LinkedIn this week. Well, I'm out on LinkedIn a lot, but before we even asked people to drop questions, I saw a post out on LinkedIn talking about 5 KPIs that every product manager should be tracking. And there was a little bit of debate about that. It was kind of an interesting debate. First of all, are there 5 KPIs that every product manager should know? And I just dropped the link to that in the chat here, and I'll drop it in the document as well. But in those, but one of the comments that came out of that was from Saeed Khan. And if you don't know Saeed, he's a product management consultant based out of Toronto. He's been around for as long as I've been in product management. We've been kind of chatting back and forth. I think we met on Twitter back in 2007 or 2008 when Twitter was still very young. And that was where the product management community really started to form on a global basis, was through Twitter. Anyway, Saeed's been a great voice in product management for a long time, and he made a statement in response to that question that I thought was a really poignant and powerful statement, and a really good foundational thing to think about. He said, metrics are answers to questions. The best metrics are the ones that help answer the questions you have or that help make better decisions. He said, thus, there are no KPIs or metrics that everyone should know. And Andrew just shared something here in the chat as well for a session on Dear Strategy. Is that a podcast, Andrew? Dear Strategy number 124 covered that topic. How can we measure the success of our strategy and KPIs? Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good podcast to follow for product people.
Excellent. We'll also drop that in the notes as well. But Saeed's statement was really poignant, I thought, because it's really true. There are some lists of KPIs, and there are a couple of frameworks that I've seen. The most common one that I've seen, frameworks for identifying your KPIs, is pirate metrics. People talk about, which is, if you haven't heard of pirate metrics, it's R. So what is it? Acquisition, activation, revenue, retention, and what's the last one? Let me think here. I don't have to think. I wrote it down, so I'm going to cheat and buy time. Retention, referral, and revenue. That's what it is. Acquisition, activation, retention, referral, and revenue. And so those aren't specific metrics, but they're prompts to think about. Here are 5 areas of the product, of product growth that I can look at, and I can identify for my specific product, for my company, what is a way to measure that. And I thought that was I think that's a really effective way of simplifying the question into a good framework. I also saw I've seen another approach that thinks about if you take Saeed's comment that metrics are the answer to questions, well, what are the questions that we really want to answer? And and if we assume that those kind of 5 categories are proxies for the questions we want to answer, there was you can then think, okay, if I want to think about activation, as one, or acquisition. What is a measure of acquisition? Well, it's probably new customers, new users, or purchases. So that's the measure. And then another part of good KPI is a target. What do I want that number to be? Where am I going with that number? So we have measure and target. And then the next question that you want to ask when you're building that KPI is, what is the source? Where can I get this data? How can I get it? And finally, how often do I need this data? And I'm going to come back to that one because that's a really powerful question. How often do I need this data? What's the frequency with which I want to look at this metric? And then there are different ways that you can look at that as well. You can look at raw numbers. You can look at progress numbers. You can look at overall change numbers, like, since this period last year. Tiago has a comment here in the chat that says, don't mix up KPI target with OKRs, please, and thank you. Absolutely agree. So that's a couple of kind of starter perspectives on frameworks for KPIs that I think are really useful. Another framework that I saw was a simplified version of R, and it was ARM. And I think the guy's name was Justin Chen that coined that one. ARM, AARM, and it is acquisition, activation, revenue, or retention, and monetization. So he simplified the 5 down into 4. It's the same thing to quickly think through, if I'm building a metric, what's the right way, or a KPI, what's the right way to think about the KPIs that I need to categorize, and start exploring how I can identify a measure, a target, a source, and a frequency in order to build those. Archie, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, so for the startup perspective, they are only considered 2 KPIs: money, second is the users. Jason, as per the Y Combinator startup school, Ming Chung, what is the name of that girl? So they are considered, why they are considered only 2 metrics? Because for the product managers, we can consider more metrics.
So the reason, I've heard that before, and there are a small number of fundamental KPIs that ultimately everything maps back to. The reason I disagree with Y Combinator's position on that, and I do disagree very strongly, is that if you're just looking at revenue and users, you are looking at lagging indicators only. You are only looking at what has already happened. Revenue only tells you the result of everything that you've already done, and it doesn't give you any headlights into the growth, into the future of what your organization is going to do. Same for number of users. Now, users, if you take the concept of users and you say, okay, here's a category that I could break down into, you can start to look at different numbers related to users, and you could look at daily new users. You could look at monthly, daily active users, monthly active users, annual active users. However, whatever makes sense for your whatever makes sense for your product. You can look at user churn. That's a KPI that will start to give you a little bit more of insight into how things are going. I have a friend and colleague here in Atlanta who is vice president of product at a pretty fast growing company, and daily active users is actually pretty meaningless for them. Monthly is even meaningless. In reality, if their product is working well, their users aren't logging into it except for maybe once a year. So their users is kind of an irrelevant measure. Now I understand why Y Combinator makes that statement, because it's the start for a metrics evaluation, but it's not the end of it, in my opinion. So let's see what.
Jason, also at the time of the pitching, for example, if we want like to submit for the investor pitches and all of that, so they can consider on the basis of the growth on that KPIs as well as.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yep, I am saying this only. For example, they can consider only 2 KPIs for overall growth of the product, as well as overall whole life cycle of the product, as well as whole whatever the growth and journey you are working on that. So they can consider only 2 things. in the Y Combinator, even for applying for getting the funds from Y Combinator as well as. So they are only looking for two things only.
So yeah, so Y Combinator is looking at metrics that would help them determine if something is a good investment.
Yes,
Where
yes,
when we're talking about product
Correct.
KPIs, what we're really looking at is what's the health of our product? Is our product progressing? Are we moving our product in the right direction to achieve company growth, to achieve company revenue, to achieve our company strategy? And so I think there's a little bit different of an outcome. Y Combinator is looking at the health of the business and the potential of the business, where KPIs at the product level are really looking at how is this product performing, what is this product doing, and where do our opportunities lie for improvement, and where do we have threats in our implementation of our product and the work that we're doing. So great comment, great conversation. Thank you. Really appreciate that.
Thanks.
Now, I saw somebody saying that Edie had something really important to say in here, and I'm trying to scroll back in it. Oh, gotcha. So it looks like Holly needs to play Edie for us here for a minute. What did I miss?
Oh, no, I was just pinging Edie, who has done a great job speaking about the difference you hit on right between lagging and leading indicators, right, in terms of your metrics, and how the leading indicators could be a lot more important, perhaps, than the lagging indicators. So I was nudging Edie to pontificate, and then Edie kicked the ball back. So
Gotcha.
Fair enough. So I'll try to play the role of Edie and remind us all, that we want to look at our leading indicators, but you said that, so.
Very good. Let's see here. And I see Hector. Welcome, Hector. You had a comment in there as well. You want to jump on here and tell us what you were saying about the frameworks that we were talking about a moment ago?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. And I just wanted to chime in saying, most organizations today that are deploying design thinking and lean agile methodologies, their product teams are measuring things like desirability, feasibility, viability. And, how do you correlate these things to customer user acquisition, customer retention, and user and usability of your product? And which one of these are leading indicators compared to lagging indicators? Any of the frameworks that you mentioned, I think need to have clarity as to, and kind of have a way for product managers to sort of standardize, regardless of what the product is, what are leading indicators that measure acquisition, retention, and the same thing for lagging indicators.
Yeah, you need both the headlights to tell you where you're going, the direction you're moving in. You can see what's coming or have a good idea of what's coming, and those leading indicators. And then you need the lagging indicators, for, among other things, to prove that your leading indicators are the right leading indicators, that they're steering you in the right direction. You have to know, are we actually achieving the success, or are we actually seeing the results that we think we should be seeing based on the leading indicators? They have to work together. I wonder, and I was thinking about this as I was researching somebody else's question, and I don't have an answer for it, but I'd be interested in some perspectives. I wonder if KPIs, by their definition, ought to primarily be leading indicators versus lagging indicators, where lagging indicators start to become, like Archit was talking about, really health metrics for the state of the business. I don't know if I believe that strongly, but it was a thought that came into mind. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think, Jason, to your point, like and I think it's good if I'd actually love if in the chat, like people would drop in what they think an example of a leading versus a lagging indicator is, because we're saying that word a lot, but like, what does that mean? Like, I think about a subscription service. If you're just measuring the retention rate, as in how often do people unsubscribe, cancel, or do they, re-up their monthly or annual membership, you're actually like missing the boat, right? Like you've screwed up somewhere along the point, and now you're learning, oh, now we're losing money. So that's a very lagging indicator. If you're just measuring, your ARR, your MRR based on subscription. But if you can figure out, okay, what are the metrics that drive people to renew that service, right? Is there a specific key action metric? If you can get, the old Netflix example, they can get 7 people, or if they can get someone to add 7 DVDs into their queue, then that has an outsized portion on their probability of renewing their Netflix service. If you can figure out what that is for your product, the things that are most likely to indicate positive renewal of that subscription, just using this as an example, that's a leading indicator. That's what you want to measure at all costs. And then your lagging indicator is, if you start to see drop off of your retention of your subscription service, then you've got a bigger problem. It means you missed a leading indicator. You were either measuring the wrong thing, or more than likely you weren't measuring anything, and now you need to go figure that out.
Very good point. Excellent. Thank you. Really great perspective. Thank you, Toby. Allison.
Yeah, so while everybody was talking, my brain went to, and I was going to pull the book down, but I'm not going to do that. Teresa's book, just because we've recently been talking about it. And then I was trying to find an article on her blog, because I feel like she talks through that feasibility, usability, viability. I'm not putting them in the right order. But the 5 constraints that you would measure on. And I think to that, Toby's point, Edie's point, I think here in the comments too, like that, use the leading to help see ahead, predict or see ahead, and then lagging to make sure you conducted a good experiment or understand like the desired outcome. And so I think that's really important to consider, is like, it's not just always lagging, it's not just always leading, it's a combination of both, to help understand the entire journey across your product.
Excellent. And Tiago.
Hey everybody. I agree. I agree with Allison, and I also saw a comment from Faith about the context, right? So when we talk about metrics, and I love Saeed's point of view on this, right? You're really using metrics to answer some questions you have, and the questions are based on the context of your business. So when we talk about the KPIs, right, to Toby's point, they can start as a leading indicator to see, okay, well, this is what we have today, right? This is the lay of the land, and this is what we need to improve if it's not good enough. And that's when the product metrics start playing to produce some of the lagging indicators. And sometimes the lagging indicator is really the original KPI that you're looking into as a leading indicator. So say if you want to improve your MRR, right, by 5% in the month over month in the next quarter, right? What are the things you're going to do in your product, and what are the product metrics you will start tracking, and based on those metrics, build a correlation with how you impact the MRR, right? So that's the whole point of moving the needle, right? So if I have a goal of improving a KPI, and I build new features, and I track how the product is behaving and all the metrics associated with that product, am I moving the needle in that specific KPI, right? And that's why I put something that please don't mix up the target KPIs with OKRs, because I still see a lot of confusion, like using the OKR as really the goal, when the OKR is more like an aspiration of where you want to be, right? Which is ambitious enough to not be considered sandbagging, but also conservative enough to not be a moonshot. Well, sometimes you can have a moonshot, but it's really like, how do you what you are going to build, and then you see, okay, what is the impact that it calls on the KPIs for your company.
Excellent. Anything to add, anyone on that? Thank you. And once again, I will remind everybody that November 30th, the week after Thanksgiving, Tiago here is going to be leading a session on perfecting your product KPIs. Really looking forward to having you here at Product Coffee for that too, Tiago. Thanks. All right. So metric stacking, Edie says, metric stacking is a great concept, Tiago. There's a grouping of small questions to asked to answer the big question of how well is it going. So yeah, lots of great stuff in here, and we'll make sure that if somebody's making sure we get all that into the notes as well. I will also try to paste the whole chat into the notes at the end of the session, but grab some of these big ones and drop them in there. Toby, what you got?
I just wanted to call out a question that Joey actually put that I think got kind of buried there, but I think it's an important, since we're talking about leading indicators here. What if your organization isn't even talking about KPIs or OKRs, or, like what if nobody cares right now? How do you get people to care? Because obviously we're kind of preaching to the choir here.
Any metrics,
anything measurable at all. How do you get people to care about it? Jason, I'm just gonna chuck that grenade right back to you.
I love it, and you're not the first person to ask that. I do want to call out Edie. Also said she just made up the term metric stacking, and but I think that's okay. You coined the term, and I think we're going to have a session on it next year. Yeah, trademark it. I love it. So yeah, that is a great question. I got another question as well on, how do you get someone excited about KPIs or metrics in general if they aren't already? And it's an important question. And I don't know what everybody else's thoughts are. I'd be really interested to hear thoughts besides my own, but I do have a couple. And most often, when I see that an organization, and for those of you who don't know me, I work in consulting and product management. I work with a lot of different clients and organizations around product strategy and product design as well. And I see a lot of organizations that ignore metrics or pay lip service to metrics and KPIs. They don't get super excited about them, but they do tend to fall into a place where where they should be tracking things that they're not, and there's a few reasons for it. The number one reason is that that I see is the leadership of the organization isn't seeing metrics that they understand as being aligned to their priorities. Jerry said something in the chat a little while ago about starting your KPIs with things that your leadership suggests. And I would alter that just a little bit. We talked in the stakeholder management series a month or two ago. We talked about really digging in and understanding the one or two things that your leaders are most find to be most important. What are the top goals of the C-suite? What are they focused on for the business strategically? And if your metrics, if your KPIs, if your proposals and recommendations are aligned to those, you start to create a more effective conversation. Another reason that I've seen that leaders don't get excited about KPIs is, to put it bluntly, they've been burned by them. They've got a bias. They've got past experience that's disenchanting them with whatever your proposal might be. Whether it be one of the common examples of that is, people use vanity metrics, and we talked about a few different types of KPIs and metrics, and people will say, hey, what's our daily active user count? And that's a KPI that we want to follow, that we want to look at, but is daily active users actually relevant? Is it a predictor of success towards your organizational goals? And so when people get really passionate about collecting KPIs and then just start throwing metrics out there to have metrics because we should be having KPIs, then they don't actually create an impact on the business. So they start to be perceived as a waste of time because we spend time every week reviewing these numbers that don't actually make a difference. So those are a couple things that I've seen is that too often PMs are bringing low value KPIs to the table, and they don't really help to improve the performance in the business overall. So how do you overcome that? And that's the real question, is how do we get them excited? You got to link it to their priorities. And you don't have to make it a forced conversation, but you want to create alignment on the problems that they care about already, then share how you're planning to solve that problem through the product, with the product, and how you intend to measure success and progress in doing so, and how you're going to identify risk in solving that problem. And it's just like product management 101, right? We want to start with a problem or an opportunity to solve something that our customers and our market care about. And the same thing goes with your metrics. They are a product, and they become more and more useful and palatable and attractive and adoptable by your leadership when they are clearly mapped to a problem that your leadership and your organization cares about and can articulate. So step one is helping articulate that problem and making sure that you've got alignment on that problem in the first place. And if you're having trouble getting that, we've talked about quantifying strategic alignment by having those rich conversations to understand, is my company's mission and vision really an indicator of the strategy of the organization? What are the goals that our leaders are actually targeting to make their bonus that can really help me understand? Or what are our what are our definitions of success as an organization? And making sure you've got clear understanding and alignment on those first, so that you can then understand, how is my product contributing to that success and how can I measure that? Then your conversation changes from, hey, we should be tracking metrics and KPIs and so on and so forth, to here's the problem you've said you've had, here's the solution that I propose, and here's how we're going to know if I'm right. And that changes the conversation. There's a lot of chat going on in there, so I'd love to I'd love for some folks to jump in and kind of summarize some of the other commentary and some of your own thoughts here as well. I also found an article that I thought would be really useful. I'm going to paste it into the chat here as well for folks while we're doing that, that I think some of you might enjoy, on really aligning leadership and having those conversations. So there you go. Who else wants to jump in here on that topic? I don't see any hands. Somebody's been watching the chat kind of share a little bit about what we're talking about.
I had my hand up, but then I put it down, Jason, because you kind of talked through all of that. But I'll just frame it maybe a slightly different way, which I said in the chat, which is starting with the story, right? We have to often set for leaders, and I don't mean this in a way that's condescending to them. They're very smart people. They're very busy people. And to Andrew's point in the chat, right? A lot of times if they don't care about a thing, it's because we've trained them at some point. You or your predecessor or someone else in your organization has trained them not to care about that thing, that thing is BS and nonsense and doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day, right? I'll be the crass one now, Sarah. So, it's just utter nonsense. That's not bachelor's of science. So they've learned that, and then now they're ignoring that and doing exactly what you taught them to do, right? And so when you come to them with these numbers and things, if they seem like they don't care, that's why. So I think, especially whether you're new to a role or new to a leader or new to setting up these metrics, but even if there's something you've inherited or that you've been doing forever, like taking the time, grab some time with them and say, hey, I know we're really busy, especially this time of year, but I just wanted to have this conversation before we go into 2023 about what are we tracking and what does that show you? And go back and tell the story, kind of like what Jason was saying, but start with the story of, and use it to validate. These are the things you said you cared about, right? These are our business goals, our top priorities. Is this still true, right? Is this all still what you want to care about? And then go into and here's why this is what we're tracking to show that, and how it tells that story, and show them how it's actionable and valuable, like how it directly connects to what they said they care about that you just revalidated with them, and then how you're able to track that at the product level and explain how it lets you take those actions, right? I think a lot of times we say that something's actionable, but we're kind of like the man behind the curtain, sticking with our Wizard of Oz theme, right? We're just like, and then I go behind the curtain and magic happens and woo! And they're like, I don't know about this. I've been burned by magic shows before in Vegas. So, you got to kind of show your work, I think is the comment there. And I do not mean drag them through a bunch of math and actually show them screen. Please, dear God, do not show the C-suite inside Pendo or the tracking metrics on the back of your app. No.
Well said. Very well said. Completely agree. Andrew had a comment in here as well, Joey, and whoever else is kind of sharing this question. Leadership may not be excited about your KPIs and your metrics, But the reality is metrics are useful to you, to the product manager, to the team. So if it's possible, do the metrics on your own. If you can get the data, and you can get some data, you can get data. Do the metrics that you can on your own, even if you don't have support, because that will help you improve the outcomes that you're getting. And that goes back, I think last week Ken Wells was on here and he recommended a book that I often recommend called How to Measure Anything. And one of the premises of How to Measure Anything is that the act of measuring is the act of reducing uncertainty. The purpose of measuring anything is to reduce uncertainty. So any data that you can get that reduces your uncertainty by any degree is an improvement, and it's something that you can use to track and improve your product. So there's data running around the organization. There's qualitative data, there's quantitative data. You can get data, measure on your own, even if you don't have strong support from your organization, because it'll help you do better. And as you do better, you'll improve your results. Tiago.
I just wanted to add one point to Holly's comment on showing the metrics and showing the numbers. There's a very cool book that is called How to Lie with the Statistics. So don't fall into the trap of just trusting the numbers you see and trying to interpret them and not have the context. I'm going to paste here in the chat. It's a very old book, but it's very good. Like how sometimes this is one of the pitfalls that we fall when we're talking about metrics, is because we want to sometimes justify and apply our confirmation bias on top of it. So more important than the math, back to Holly, more important than the math behind the metric is the stories it is telling, right? Is how this is justifying the investment. Or sometimes like you figure out, oh, this is so bad that we need to kill this feature, let's get out of it, let's move on, let's go to the next big thing. So just something for all of us. And I talk about this book because I used to fall prey to my own biases and to statistics a lot. So it's also a reminder for me to always like keep looking like the truth and be more informed than driven. What?
Tiago, are you saying that leaders may have been trained that 74.9% of all statistics are made up on the spot? Yes. Are they aware of this? This truth?
And they probably read 256 articles to come to this conclusion. It's all made up. So
and that's a great point though, because I mean, wow, that's a quote that I've used for a long time. And I just personally chose the 74.9, I think, but it's one I stick with if you ever hear me say it. But because it sounds right when you add the point too, there's actually logic to that. Psychologically, people think, oh, if you have a decimal in there, that wow, this is serious. Like you're actually down to the decimal with this. Is not, but it's easy to make up a number, right? Because who's going to validate it? And if they do validate it later, it's not like you get pinned to the wall, like, oh my God, you lied. It's just like, oh, my math was off. Oh, my numbers are wrong. Oh, well, maybe I was doing it from 10 years ago, or before the product existed, or something. It's really easy to pull that off. So I think that people do have that bias, to your point. And I think a lot of people at that leader level have been trained, and go back to that train point, that the metrics that they're being given are just nonsense, that they either don't mean something, they're not actionable, or quite possibly they're made up because the product team was asked to produce metrics, never really learned any of the stuff we're trying to cover this month, didn't know how to do that, thought, oh my God, if they know that I don't know how to do this, right? It's like the emperor's new clothes, I'll lose my job. So therefore, fake it till you make it. But maybe they never made it, they just kept faking it, right? So
yep.
I got another statistic for you to add to your repertoire, Holly and Tiago, and for everybody. 80% of product managers use the Pareto principle incorrectly. I see some laughter there. Some folks got that.
So focus on the 20% that they use it right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So, cool. So this has been a great discussion so far. I got another kind of related question that came in that I want to drop in here, and I also want to remind you, based on that last question, around getting leadership excited. On December 7th, our product coffee session, our free product coffee session for everybody, is going to be on the topic of aligning on metrics. And it's about not just having metrics, but getting your organization comfortable with the metrics that you have, making sure that your metrics are correct, and that your KPIs are good KPIs that will help your company, and getting everybody on board with leaning on them and using them on a regular basis to measure health. So you can actually, I'll drop the link in here to chat here in a moment to make sure that everybody can get over there. But you can go to productcoffee.com/events, and you can find all these sessions, and you can, and registration is open for all of them. You can go ahead and start signing up for that now. And there was a related question around that topic in general, specifically about tools that you can use to track metrics. Somebody asked, what are the best tools to get metrics faster? And I'd be interested to know what people on this call are using to look at, track, digest, and get access to the metrics. I found there's quite a few tools out there already. Google Analytics is kind of a standard. If you've got a web-based product, Google Analytics is a standard that's out there. There's also Adobe Analytics. If you're at the enterprise level, it's an expensive product, but you can embed it in lots of different places. Full Story is an Atlanta startup, started actually by my old colleague Scott Voigt from Silverpop, and they've been digging into some really cool, not only metrics but client support and intelligence technologies. Mixpanel, Amplitude, Heap. Pendo, of course, is the big one that we hear about all along the way. And Acclaim Products is a new one from Sophion to do that. Anthony's asking, is Full Story for metrics or session replays? And I would say Full Story is for both. They have good metrics data, and they do session replays. I think they made themselves famous on session replays. That's how they kind of got started. But the data that they collected, they've gotten increasingly skilled at providing analysis and visualization of the data that they collect in order to do those replays. So definitely we're looking at. Let's to jump in and talk about what are your favorite tools for getting metrics and getting them quickly. I mean, obviously the first answer to getting metrics faster is use the tools you have in place already and find what you can and aggregate it. People throw stuff into Excel and analyze, or use a BI tool to gather stuff from multiple sources. But I'd love to hear what folks talk about. A lot of people are talking about Pendo, and I'd love to hear what you love about Pendo, why it's helpful for getting you what you need quickly. Soumya, you want to jump in here?
Yes, camera free Soumya today.
No problem.
Yes, Pendo is like super easy, quick to implement. Whenever a company has to have a new tool or something, there is all these things that you have to go through via IT to the team, or do you have space in the roadmap for implemented? I never felt it with Pendo. They hired one guy to implement Pendo for the entire organization. He seamlessly finished it within couple of weeks. Like there it was functioning. The reporting was pretty easy too. You don't have to go like learn something new. It is super easy to use. I really liked how quick it was to get it up and running. And then there it was. Like you make a decision to buy it, and there it was, and you can do your own reports. It's very simple.
Yeah, I see a lot of people saying you don't need dev to instrument it, and that's really an important characteristic if you want to get success quickly. Yeah. Anthony, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I've been using Adobe Analytics for like 5 or 6 years, and I like it because I understand how it really works. It's definitely not as easy as Pendo. You do need, dev resources. You need like a whole team to like actually, work just on that. And but you can do really complex analysis based on visits and hits and stuff. But I think more than the tools, it's more about like understanding, what data you're having and like what it really means. And then also kind of developing that data kind of culture, right? Because what I've noticed from me being an analyst before is that you can spend like weeks building dashboards and stuff, but you have like zero business value then. Right? Even if you spend all that time taking all this effort, but but the business value achieved then is zero. And then you need to spend time asking questions and changing stuff. And that's where people get really lazy. Even I'm super lazy on that. Like, I don't want to spend time investigating why a metric goes down. Like, hopefully it goes up tomorrow and we all just forget about it, right? So that is where I think the difference lies. And it's very hard to tell like an analyst, hey, this metric went down, go find out why. And we can provide a playbook of like, investigate these things. But unless someone's really curious to find out that answer, like it's super hard to build that. And that kind of plays into the rest of the org, right? Like if you're not being forced to investigate metrics, then you just won't do it because it's easy to ignore it. And the only reason I even know how to do it is because a former boss was like so focused on metrics that even if we were wrong by a few bits, we'd be like, where is that coming from, right? Like we couldn't be wrong. We would have to have assumptions stated out and stuff. So without that strong, strict kind of data culture, it's very hard to like get into this, is my opinion.
Yeah. I see some thank yous for commenting on that, Anthony. And Adobe Analytics is certainly one of the big. It used to be Omniture, and they've expanded it as they brought other tools into the portfolio. So you can do a lot with it. But you're right, there's a big implementation path. It's a services-heavy implementation path. However, once you've got it in place, there's a lot you can do with it. Toby, you've got your hand up. Go for it.
Holly actually, I think, was going to say something, so I'll pass to Holly.
Go, Holly. All right.
Aw, thanks, Terry. And hopefully it's just kind of a softball, but I wanted to, and we'll tie into yours, but comment on my friend Annie here, who said, was talking about the value really. And I think that's super important, as we've talked about a couple of things. And Jason, you mentioned something being expensive or whatever. And I know Andrew in the chat, you're talking about the on-prem. I myself have had legacy COBOL or on-prem software where you can't necessarily just leverage some of these out of the box solutions to start tracking it. You have to, and that's where I think going through the stuff we're working through this month and making sure we're determining what are the right metrics and really validating that before we do a thing is super important, because you may have to do investment in your product to go start capturing those metrics, right? And even if you're doing something out of the box, I think that becomes part of it, especially that conversation with leadership. Why would we invest in this, right? Because you're going to have a budget for Pendo, for Adobe Analytics or whatever, right? So you've really got to be able to speak to the value of doing the thing, right? But I would also caution to not do the thing because it's of the money. I see that. I feel like too often, right? People see the giant price tag on that. And I'm really excited, Jason mentioned Sophion, to check out their solution. I don't know if you guys all got to, obviously not everyone met Andrew Wells at Product Camp, but those of you at Product Camp, if you got to meet Andrew, he was a great representative of that and can set up time with you to kind of show you what that tool can do. And I'm excited to just know more about that toolkit and how plug and play that is for options there. But don't be scared of the price tag and think, oh gosh, so I'll never want to pay that. You just have to be able to speak to, what does it do for me, right? How is it going to help me increase my revenue, my attrition, my maintenance dollars, my whatever those metrics can tie into, to make that value recognizable. But whatever you do, don't let the expense of doing it be a reason to not do it, because there's going to be a lighter shift way to do something there in that space, right? To all the chat, like whether it's something you do in-house, maybe it's not perfect, right? Maybe it only gets you part of the way there, but something is better than nothing. And then I'm going to get off my soapbox. Go, Toby.
No, I mean, adding on to that, and also to what Anthony was saying, like it's so important that you don't try to do everything like 0 to 1, right? Like that's like, we're product people. Like, don't be stupid, right? Like figure out what's the smallest possible analytic KPI that you can track, even if it's manually. I mean, Jason, you asked the question, what tools do you use? And the first one that I saw was Microsoft Excel, right? Mm-hmm. Is there something, it's going to be a pain in the butt. It's going to take you a lot of time, but like, if this is your job, like you're a product leader, like you need to be driving the common sense understanding of why analytics and KPIs matter. So yeah, like set aside the time, block off your calendar and spend 2 days, 3 days, a week, whatever it takes to do that first KPI measurement. I mean, I threw an anecdote in the chat. You guys can go find it if you want, about how with zero implementation, we were able to track a KPI across a feature launch and see something go from a bad number to a good number, and then show that to the leadership. And they went, we get it now. How long did this take you? Oh, sweet Jesus, that's too long. What you mean? There's a tool you can use? Oh, great, budget approved, right? It was an open and shut case. And then once we got that tool, we didn't go to Anthony's point. We didn't go and add analytics into every button, every page, every screen. We said, all right, let's just figure out what are the pages that people are going to most. Awesome. Okay, now we have some kind of a conversion funnel. Let's figure out where the biggest drop off of that conversion funnel. This wasn't even e-commerce. This was just an app. But we said, where's the most activity? Okay, it's in page 3. Great. Let's go and build out the analytics for page 3 and the things that we care about on page 3 that we want to know more about. Great. Now we understand that. Let's go to the second, right? So every point along the way, you should be doing the minimum viable amount of effort to get the maximum insight that either validates or invalidates your hypothesis. And then you keep going from there and you iterate and you iterate. Don't think that you need $100,000 and an entire team of analytics engineers to go and tag all of the events for your product. Like, you do not need that. Be scrappy or be smarter. Now I'm off my soapbox.
I love it. I'm just going to tie it back to value, though, because to your point, a lot of times you may be using Excel, but that data has to come from somewhere. And if you can get your hands on the data directly as the product leader, great. But it's quite possible, right, for good reason, especially if you're in a larger enterprise company, that data is buried somewhere that you, for security reasons and plausible deniability and whatever else, right, do not have access to. You might need a dev resource to go pull that data for you. So I'm just going to one more time just say, be prepared with the value, because you're going to need to explain, why are you taking that dev team, even if it just takes 1 hour of that person's time, right? Why are you distracting this person from X thing, right? That may be monetary, but whether or not it is, right? You be prepared with the value of the why. Just have your story about why we're doing this before you go off skipping down the road.
Or make a friend.
Yellow brick road.
Bribes are very effective.
Tacos, totally.
Yes.
Yeah, buy a developer lunch.
Yeah, I completely agree with the metrics and then value it brings onto it, right? You don't want to do certain things. So don't waste your time just because you want metrics. It's an intelligent conversation using metrics, right? But really, at the end of the day, does it even add value? Because it's time, it's an effort, it's a resource you are wasting. So we are all product managers. We do know how to prioritize our shit, right? So go prioritize what metrics you want first versus what is nice to have. Just put that in the backlog. Don't worry about it, right? I have seen people come with lots of metrics because it all looks very pretty and nice. But at the end of the day, if you start to think about why are they showing me this metrics when I don't need to know for this particular project, you will know it is not valuable. So just keep moving on, Thought process behind doing everything.
Absolutely. That's a great one to call out, Soumya. Thank you. And I one of the questions that we didn't get to that I got was somebody was asking about what are some gotchas to be aware of when using metrics. And I think that's 100% one of the big takeaways that you just brought up there, Soumya, is making sure that your metrics are relevant. You're not just looking at metrics for the sake of metrics. And Roman Pitchler, who some of you know, has been around the product space for a while as well. And he's got a podcast where he talked about that. I'm dropping it in the chat and I'll drop it in the notes as well. And some of the stuff he's got some interesting ideas on common KPI mistakes. It doesn't really fully answer the question, but I think some of my big takeaways from my experience have been big gotcha to be aware of when using metrics is recognize vanity metrics for what they are. There are some vanity metrics that are nice to have and that people care about, but recognize that they are vanity metrics and they don't really necessarily drive the change that you want to. Make sure that you're collecting metrics that actually can be used to drive change, can be used to identify things that you can pull levers on and affect in the product. And make sure that one of the other big gotchas is, and people have talked about it, if you don't create top to bottom alignment around those metrics and KPIs, then they will become kind of a big, perceived as a big waste of time. So make sure that you're able to align the product that you have to the goals of the organization, to the strategy of the organization, that your metrics are helping people understand how well you are doing at contributing to that strategy. And then the last one that I really wanted to highlight is evaluating metrics at the wrong interval. We talked about one of the examples where daily active users isn't really valuable for a lot of organizations. So, but making sure that you have users that log in quarterly is. Make sure you're looking at the right interval. And another great example is NPS. I see so many organizations. NPS gets a lot of criticism because and the criticism that it gets is because, in my opinion, it's used incorrectly so much of the time. It's actually a valuable metric. It can be a leading indicator. It can be a lagging indicator. The problem is if you have a product that releases on a weekly or on even a weekly basis, the chances of you impacting NPS for existing users with each release is very low. So you have to look at NPS at the right frequency for it to give you a meaningful understanding of the change that you're driving, especially when you're using it as a lagging indicator. And there are some others that are kind of like that. But I just wanted to kind of get that in there because it was a big question. There are other gotchas. I'd love to see your comments in the chat. We're going to stick around for a couple minutes, but that I also want to kind of wrap it up for those who have to drop at 9 o'clock. This has been a fantastic session. Join us over at productcoffee.com and check out our whole series on metrics and our workshop coming up on December 16th for Power Metrics. And we'll absolutely love to see you in Product Coffee Premium. Go to productcoffee.com and check out our membership options. Join us at Product Coffee Premium, and we'd love to see you in our Slack group and in our workshops as kind of part of that membership. And we will see you the week after Thanksgiving in the U.S. Have a great, great couple of weeks, and enjoy your turkey if you're going to eat it.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
So it's vegetarian. Bye, guys.
Yeah, right. Bye.